Okay, so picture this. You reach for your phone, like we all do 100 times a day, and you want to, connect with someone, share something funny you saw, and then boom, nothing.
Yeah, it's that sinking feeling when the digital world goes dark.
It's like getting cut off mid-sentence, and it happened to a whole lot of Snapchat users last night.
It did indeed.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take one topic and go deep.
That's right, we unpack it all.
And today, we're diving headfirst into that Snapchat outage we were just talking about.
Yep, we're going to dissect it.
We've got this report from the Times of India that gives us a pretty good play-by-play of what went down.
A good starting point for sure.
So what we're aiming for here is to kind of figure out what exactly happened, who it affected, and, what this whole thing says about, our lives online these days.
It's a good question to be
You
asking.
might have even been one of the people, refreshing your screen last night, wondering what was going on.
It's certainly possible a lot of people were affected.
Let's get into the timeline then.
Okay, so the Times of India says things started going haywire around 9:30 East Standard Time on March 13th, 2025.
For those of us who don't live on the East Coast EST, that's East Coast time, right?
That's right.
So yeah, prime time for, scrolling through your feed.
Absolutely, when a lot of people are winding down for the evening.
It wasn't a gradual thing either. The peak of the problems hit around 10:45 p.m., so just over an hour later.
Yeah, a very concentrated window of disruption.
And to get a sense of just how widespread this was, we can look at Down Detector. They had something like 49,000 users reporting issues.
That's a significant number for sure.
By the way, for anyone who's not familiar with it, Down Detector is basically a website where people can report when online services aren't working.
Right. It's like a crowdsourced outage tracker, so you can see if it's just you or if everyone's having problems.
Exactly. So you're not, troubleshooting your Wi-Fi for an hour when the problem is actually with the app itself.
Right. It can save you a lot of frustration.
So of those 49,000 reports, the Times of India breaks it down further. About half couldn't even log in.
Yeah, that's the most basic function, and they were locked out.
That's like showing up to a party and they won't even let you in the door.
Exactly. And that's going to be incredibly annoying.
Another 30% were having, just general app issues.
Which could mean a lot of things. Messages, not sending features, glitching out, that sort of thing.
Right. Like the app is working, but it's not working well. And then there's the last 20% who are running into server connection errors.
Meaning the app couldn't communicate with Snapchat's servers?
Right. It's like your phone can't get a signal.
Precisely. So you've got all these different errors happening at the same time, which suggests a pretty major issue on Snapchat's end.
It's not just a few isolated incidents. This was a system-wide problem. And of course, as soon as things went south, users did what they always do.
They headed straight to Twitter, or X, as we should be calling it now.
Right. It's like the digital equivalent of shouting out your window to see if your neighbors have power.
Exactly. It's the go-to place to check if you're alone in your digital misery.
And the tweets that the Times of India pulls out are pretty classic. There's the simple, everyone running to Twitter to check if Snapchat is broken for anyone else.
It's so relatable, right? That immediate instinct to see if it's just you.
And then there's the tweet that's like, why does Snapchat choose to be down right when fine shite snaps back after being on delivered for 5 hours?
So much frustration packed into that one sentence.
Right, like you finally get that reply you've been waiting for, and then boom, the whole platform crashes.
Talk about bad timing.
And you can almost picture the person who tweeted, me checking my Snapchat every 30 seconds knowing it'll still be down.
That's the definition of hope over experience.
Right. But it also shows how addicted we are to these apps. Even when we know they're not working, we can't help but check.
It's become such a ingrained habit for a lot of us.
But then you've got the tweets from people who are actually running into problems like Snapchat is down and I logged out and can't get back in now.
Oh, that's a classic self-inflicted wound.
Right. You try to fix it yourself and end up making it worse because the problem is on Snapchat's side.
And it speaks to that assumption we have that these services will always be available.
Exactly. And then there's the even more desperate deleted Snapchat because it wasn't working and I can't log back in because the app is down.
Oh no, that's a level of frustration I can only imagine.
Right. They tried to nuke it from orbit and now they're completely locked out.
That's a tough situation to be in.
And of course, you've got the inevitable everyone, when Snapchat goes down, tweet, probably with a funny meme attached.
It's like a shared moment of digital commiseration.
Right. We're all in this together, even if it's just a minor inconvenience.
And there's a certain humor to be found in these shared tech failures.
But what's interesting is that while all this was happening on Twitter, there was radio silence from Snapchat itself.
Yeah. The Times of India specifically mentions that users were eagerly waiting for an official response.
Which in today's world is almost unheard of, right?
It's true in the age of instant communication that silence can be deafening,
It's like they just vanished into thin air.
and that lack of communication can really fuel speculation and frustration.
Right. People start wondering what's going on, when it'll be fixed, if their data is safe.
It's in those moments that transparency from tech companies is so important.
Absolutely. It's about acknowledging the problem and reassuring users that they're working on it.
It's about maintaining trust even when things go wrong.
So to sum up what we've learned from this way, the Times of India, Snapchat had a major outage last night. Tens of thousands of users were affected. Logins were down, app was glitching out, and nobody could connect to the servers.
That's the short version.
Users flocked to Twitter to vent their frustration, share memes, and, see if they were the only ones having problems.
It's the digital town square for outage announcements,
And through it all, Snapchat itself remained completely silent.
leaving users in the dark.
Which begs the question, why should anyone listening to this care about a Snapchat outage?
It's a fair question. What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, for one thing, I think it shows just how reliant we've become on these apps for, staying connected with people.
Right, we take it for granted that we can reach anyone at any time.
Exactly. But then something like this happens and you realize how much of our communication runs through these platforms.
And it's not just about casual chatting either.
No, people use these apps for work, for school, for sharing important information.
So an outage can actually have a real impact on people's lives.
It's not just a minor inconvenience for some people. It can be a major disruption.
And it makes you think about the potential consequences of our increasing dependence on these technologies.
Absolutely. What happens when those connections are suddenly severed?
It's a question worth pondering.
Another thing this outage highlights is the role of social media in these situations.
Right, how it becomes the go-to source for information and updates.
It's like a self-organizing emergency response system.
Exactly. When one platform goes down, people naturally gravitate to others to find out what's going on.
And to commiserate with each other. Share their frustration, maybe have a laugh about it.
It's a way of collectively experiencing and processing these digital disruptions.
And finally, I think this whole situation underscores the importance of communication from the companies themselves.
Absolutely. Transparency is key, especially when things go wrong.
Just a simple message, acknowledging the problem, and letting users know they're working on it can go a long way.
It's about managing expectations and maintaining trust.
Because when a service you rely on suddenly disappears, that silence can be really unsettling.
It can feel like you've been abandoned.
So while this particular outage might seem like a minor blip in the grand scheme of things, it actually reveals a lot about our relationship with technology.
It does indeed.
It shows how dependent we've become on these digital connections, how we react when they're disrupted, and how important it is for companies to communicate effectively during those disruptions.
It's a reminder that the digital world is built on trust, and that trust can be fragile.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. How deeply ingrained are these instant connections in your own life?
What would it mean for you if one of your go-to platforms suddenly went dark?
What would you do? How would you feel?
It's something to think about.
Because in today's world, being disconnected can feel like being cut off from the world itself.
And that's a feeling none of us wants to experience.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Until then, stay connected.